Hi, I'm Lydia Trikurniawati. Here I would like to explain the relationship between language and thought. Talking about the language and thought, we may have had the experience that when we are thinking about something or planning an activity, there is a voice inside our head, perhaps sounding like our own, talking about whatever we are thinking about. But before we continue with the material that discusses the relationship between language and thought, I would like to explain first what's the definition about language and thought. According to Chomsky, language is not just a collection of words and grammar rules, but also a system that has the ability to produce an infinite number or few meaningful sentences. Chomsky also explained that thought is a complex cognitive process involving information processing, reasoning, perception, and interpretation of environmental stimuli. The next slide is the relationship between language and thought. Watson and Skinner state that thinking is a form of speaking in our mind. However, research shows that language and thought are actually separate. Thought relates abilities. The following case study research that language and thought are separate abilities. Let's take a look. These are 4 case studies. Case number 1 is curare. Experiment with curare show that while the volunteer lost the ability to speak due to the throat muscle stiffness, he still perceive, think, and remember even around him. This invalidates Watson's theory that language and thought are not one and the same. And the case number 2 is Brother John. Brother John case so that despite losing the ability to speak and understand language during epilepsy seizures, he is still able to think, respond to the environment, and perform complex tasks. Before we get into the case study of Williams syndrome, I will introduce first what is Williams syndrome by taking an example from a YouTube video.
Your classmate has Williams syndrome. Williams syndrome is called a genetic condition. Genes are the things that we are all made of, and a person with Williams syndrome doesn't have quite as many genes as you do. It's a very tiny difference that can make a lot of changes. Let's pretend that a person is a library. Each library has 2 copies of 23 different books, 46 books in all. For most of the libraries, both copies of each book are identical. But in the Williams syndrome library, one copy of book number 7 is a little bit different. It is missing 28 words. Just 28 words, or about 3 sentences in a row, are missing somewhere in the middle of the book. That's not very much, is it? But each of the words has a different meaning, and put all together, they can add up to lots of different things. For instance, your classmate with Williams syndrome is probably smaller than you are, and they might have to work harder on some things that seem easy for you. They might have to go to the doctor more than you, and they may have had to go to the hospital to get their heart fixed. Sometimes kids with Williams syndrome have very sensitive hearing and don't like loud noises like fire alarms or balloons popping. And they might get anxious about something new that is happening around them. But there are cool things about Williams syndrome too. Have you noticed that your classmate is super friendly and talkative? Do they know lots of songs and like to sing and dance? Do they know everybody's name? Those things are all part of Williams syndrome too.
Case number 3, Williams syndrome. People with Williams syndrome have a language abilities that are more advanced than their non-language cognitive abilities. The last case is Christopher. Christopher is a person with autism, has exceptional language skill despite having difficulties in understanding non-literal language, such as metaphor and irony. So the conclusion for this material, thus it shows that although language and talk are connected, they are not one and the same. With several case studies above, evidence suggests that they are separate abilities. So that's all for my presentation. Thank you.